We wanted to talk about color toning in a studio as opposed to color toning on location very quickly. What would you say are like the pros and cons of color toning in a studio? Because you've actually worked with many studio images, whereas I work with a lot of location images.
It's true. The biggest thing for me is the lighting condition. Here we have a lighting condition that has a lot more gradations from shadows to highlights. And what that does is there's a more interesting way of seeing the colors, because here we have sharper highlights, we have darker shadows, and it adds to the intensity of how colors play. Like I mentioned earlier, if there's a different balance of shadows to highlights, you end up shifting colors differently based on where your focus is going to be. Also, when you have harder lighting, you get a lot more detail and contrast. So the same thing happens with elements like this dress. If this dress was shot outside, it wouldn't have the same specularity, and therefore you won't have the same color spectrum in the garments you're shooting. So the colors are then interpreted differently. So your lighting and internal conditions change it quite a bit. And then also you have different things, like we're not shooting at 2.8, we're shooting at f11. So things are sharper, colors are more radiant, you get a lot more range as well. So those are primarily the differences, and how these same tools, when applied to both indoors and outdoors, have drastically different effects.
Yeah. Well said.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so what did you want to do with the color lookup?
Yes, we're going to have a quick look at an adjustment or two.
Okay.
Let's see. Quite liked the moonlight one, actually, I remember. And that's because it adds a subdued tone to the skin again. I know, I keep brightening and subduing, and this is why I struggle sometimes when I'm shooting with a DSLR. And I can only do this with a medium format camera. Okay. So I'm going to change the opacity of that to about 15. Yep. I'm happy with that. And now I'm going to go to selective color. I'm going to grab some of this green and change the color of that. Okay. There's actually a bit of cyan in there, more than green, if anything.
I think it's in the yellows.
Is it in the yellows?
I think so. Let's try.
I think it's in cyans.
Let's
Who is going to be right?
Oh, I'm scared. It's in the cyans.
And I'm going to make it really like, very lush almost. Because I quite like that. Let's have a look at yellows. You might be right as well.
Nope.
Nope.
Oh, man. I was wrong. And you can also duplicate the adjustment layer in case you want to double up the effect.
Oh, whoops. Oh.
Command Z. Oh.
Did I do that? Oh, no, I got rid of it. Let's do that again. Okay. So I'm just looking at the background again at this point.
And you are doing what? Trying to darken it?
No, I'm just trying to bring out the greens more than anything else.
Okay.
I'm going to turn that off and on.
Oh, I see.
See, there's a slight... The greens are a little bit more vibrant now. And the funny thing was, the colors weren't actually in the greens, they were in the cyan.
It's
okay.
Interesting interpretation.
Yeah. So we're going to go to use saturation. I'm going to do what you did earlier. Oh, let's see. Actually, I just want to... Ooh, what is happening? So here we go. Earlier when we were playing in use saturation, we stuck to like one color, didn't we? And then we moved on. You can actually play and you can stick around and just see what's happening. So the cyans, I've noticed, that looks cool, but this might look quite nice as well. In the blues, I'm just looking at...
Do you care about the dress or just the background?
I'm looking at all of it, actually. So the blues in the dress seem a bit too strong. So what I might do is drop the saturation down just a little bit. Make it more pink, because I think that looks really pretty. And then let's have a look at what happens to the magenta now. And drop the saturation down as well. Just a tiny bit. I'm looking at the dress. I'm looking at the dress.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. All right. And I might actually subdue this down a bit as well, this purple. So we'll go for another use saturation and subdue that. Okay. And that's in the blues. Oh, gosh. Wow. Okay, so you can also play and see what happens. I thought the colors were a bit too distracting, so I think that's what I've naturally started to do, was just subdue them just a little bit. Okay. I'm quite liking how that looks as well. Okay, so now I'm going to go into my layer mask and make sure that the color adjustment I made isn't on the face. Okay.
100.
Yeah. Bring that down just a little bit. There we go. On the skin anyway. Pardon?
Do on this one as well.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, I'm going to do it on both of the ones that I did. Here we go. Clicking on that. I'm going to turn that off and on just to double check. Actually, that's not too bad, because that actually unifies it quite nicely. Okay.
Erase it on the neck so it's not desaturated right here.
Yes, you're right. Good call.
That's why I have to double check just in case there's some areas that...
There we go. I think I'm... There we go. There we go.
Okay, and the way to basically know if you've done it is just click on the mask itself.
Okay.
Like that. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Where is that bit hiding? Oh, I think it might be the smoke as well.
What are you looking for?
Hang on, I'm just having a look. No, we got it. We got it.
Perfect.
All right. So something I'm going to show you is a little flare.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to show you something that I like to do now and then, which is just adding a little flare. You can actually download flare textures from online. Like there's loads of stock websites, and you can just download a flare texture from there, or many flare textures.
We're going to create them.
I'm just going to create one by opening up a new layer. I'm going to title that flare, and I'm going to go to white. Grab my brush, make it nice and fluffy. Fluffy?
Fluffy.
Making sure my flow is low. I'm just gonna paint very casually here. There we go. There we go. All right. All right. And we're done. Okay. Now, I'm gonna make my brush a bit smaller. Oh. I think the computer's thinking a little bit.
Yeah, it's just,
It's just thinking. Oh, oops.
Give it a second. It's okay. Don't worry.
Too much flare.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, because it's 3,000 pixel brush, so it takes some time.
Let's just go back a couple of steps. Brilliant. Okay, so we're going to go to screen. Oh, no, not color dodge. Screen. Doesn't really do much, it doesn't matter.
Because it's white.
It's because it's white. And we're just going to drop the opacity of that to...
How about overlay?
Yeah, I was going to try that next. Again, you just want to test it. I'm going to stick to screen for now, I think. I'm just going to drop the opacity of that to about 30? 30, yeah, 30%. I'm going to turn that off and on. And then I'm going to open up a layer mask. And using my brush tool, lightly brush in, or brush some of that away.
So with the black brush?
With a black brush, and just keeping my flow and opacity low. And I'm just going to craft that, the light hitting her just a little bit more. So essentially, it is a bit like painting. Like you paint and then you just control where your brush is going a little bit. Let's see. Brilliant. Okay. There we go. I'm quite happy with that. All right. So something I also like to do is to darken the image just a little bit. And I would use the curves and the curves tool to do that. So I want to go to the curves adjustment. There we go. Drag this down. And then use a lasso tool and just lasso around her. So some people, you can also use a marquee tool, the elliptical marquee tool, and do that as well. And that works too. It's the same principle. But I'm going to use the lasso tool, the lasso.
Yeah.
There we go. I'm just
Hashtag lasso.
No, God. Okay, I'm just going to go very casually around her. And making sure my black is at the bottom, press delete. And that just deletes everything that's within the marquee tool. Marquee. All right, going to go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur. And that's just going to soften up the edges. There we go. Okay, let's press on and off. All right. I think that could be a bit more blurry. I forgot how big this file is. There you go, maybe 800. Okay. Brilliant. And something else I'm going to do as well very quickly is go to my levels.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm doing in the levels here, so I've noticed that this picture is looking a little bit flat. I like the colors, but it's looking flat. So that's why I'm just going to check out what I can do in levels to bring some of that contrast back. So I'm just going to drag in these sliders and just see what I can do over here. So this slider brings in your like blacks, I assume, and this one brings in your whites.
It compresses all your shadow and highlights, so it matches where your input and output levels are. So you don't have any gaps in the image, or the shadows aren't too flat.
Yeah, and what does this one do?
It brightens up, basically, where you bring in your endpoints as well.
Okay.
Simply put.
Great. See, I just go by how I think it looks and whether I like it or not.
This is why we get along.
Yeah.
We're both a
You
equal
know.
pair. Yeah.
Yeah, you know the technicalities behind it. Okay. I think that's a bit too bright there on her arm. So I'm just going to bring some of that back by brushing away there. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Also, before we go any further as well, can we see a before and after so we can see our progress? Let's go and put these all together.
So we haven't actually liquefied yet. We haven't dodged and burned this image. We just jumped straight into color toning.
Right, because we've already done a lot of that stuff before, but the color toning bit is the most interesting aspect in how you transform these images. Even having a 100% view is really interesting to see the detail and differences in color. So where are we at this moment in terms of where we've come from and where we are at this moment?
So I think we've still got a way to go. I would still tweak this image a lot more, and I would be using all the color adjustments that I shared with you earlier as well. So I'd be going into my color balance. We'll have a look at them.
Okay.
So I would be going into my curves a bit more, into the red, green, and blue channels. I'll be going into my color balance, and I'll just be going back and forth, adding and tweaking it, just trying to pull the image towards the direction that I want it to go. So I like the muted tones, and sometimes, sometimes you can get to a place where you're very happy, and sometimes you can get to a place where you're feeling a bit lost. And that's where having an action set comes in handy. So, for example, if I was completely confused and I didn't know which color direction to take this picture into, I'd probably run one of my action sets. And the reason for that is my color toning is very consistent in terms of when you look at my portfolio, there's a consistency in there. So what I would do is just grab one of the colors that I've already used on one picture and bring them into another just to see how they look. And at least that way I know that I'm within the same palette of colors that would sit very nicely alongside another photo. So.
Before we go on any further, do you have a general direction into which colors you're going to change or where you're going to end up with at the moment, or do you not know?
No, we can go further, happily. Okay. So let us go into color balance, because we haven't actually done that just yet, have we, on this picture? So we're going to go into color balance, and we're going to go into our midtones, and we're just going to have a look. This time I'm going to be focusing more on the background. Okay. I've got pink in the foreground, so I quite like the idea of a muted, of a deeper, like either green or blue background, so I'm just going to focus on that now. And I'm using my color balance adjustment to figure it out. One moment. I'm actually getting to a place where I'm actually feeling a bit happy about this. I love the greens there. That looks really, really pretty.
That made a big difference.
It did, didn't it?
It felt like the greens started to tie in more with, without being too magenta.
That's right. Okay, and what I'm going to do is grab, and this is basically how I think. I'm constantly just looking at how I feel about the skin, and how I feel about the background, and how I feel about the dress, and just to see whether all of this is working harmoniously, and if it isn't, I tweak and tweak and tweak until I feel like we're getting to a place where it is. I thought this was going to be a really blue picture. Didn't turn out that way, and that's okay, because sometimes that happens as well.
There's so much mystery to it when you deepen these colors like that.
Yeah. I like that a lot. I'm just going to bring the curves down a little bit more. In fact, we're going to just bring the highlights, the shadows, and do a really gentle S-curve and just see what's happening. No, and that's okay as well. We can delete that. Okay. We can just duplicate that in case the edges are losing their focus a bit. There we go. So I've darkened the edge just a little bit. I'll bring that up here. Again, I just touched that layer, duplicate J, Command J to duplicate it, brought it to the top, and now I'm just looking at the shadows. I'm losing some shadows here, losing some detail in the shadows here. So I'm just going to make sure my layer mask is selected, and with a white brush, lightly bring some of that information back. Oh, hang on, there we go. Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. There we go. Okay, just to make it a bit more balanced. Okay. And actually, I'm going to say something as well, which is, now and then, what I will do is, you know how you can dodge and burn on just the skin? You can also dodge and burn on the whole picture. It's the same premise. You're just balancing out the light and shadow in the whole photo.
Right.
So what I'm going to do is run Pratik's action.
Just the dodge.
No, dodge and burn.
Okay.
Okay. And in the dodge, I'm just going to look at what areas of the picture is light and work out my transitions that way. So I know some of this is smoke, but I just want to see if I can... Oh, hang on. That's definitely not supposed to go there.
Command Z.
There we go. Burn that just a little bit.
That's opacity.
Okay.
So you're just burning down the bright smoke?
Just a little bit, just so that it looks a bit more, what do you call it?
Balanced.
Balanced, that's right. Because it felt that it felt a little bit too, it wasn't soft. Yeah. The transition between light and shadow wasn't soft. And, oh, hang on. That did nothing because I wasn't brushing with white. There we go. Perfect. Great. Okay. I'm going to dodge some of this back.
Actually,
Yeah.
instead of dodging that back, let's go to the one where you darken the edges, and we'll undo that.
Yes,
right.
that's a good idea.
Otherwise, we'll lose all that data.
Okay. All right. And I'm going to put in some of this just a little bit. Okay. All right. Turn that off. Do you see the difference? It's very small.
Right. Do that slowly. So this was the after
Yeah.
in terms of the smoke balancing,
That's right.
right?
Yeah, just to make it a bit soft.
And then we can also use this layer as well to bring back the edges if necessary, and this one as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do that. Go here,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll bring back the edges.
Higher flow. There you go.
Okay, got some detail back. Oh, much better.
Beautiful.
Yeah? You happy? Brilliant.
Perfect.
Okay.
So let's take a look at what we've done so far here with the colors. So this is our before. What a massive transformation, actually. And this is our after.